We have less than 2 weeks before Jurassic World Rebirth is here. It's also Jurassic June. As you probably already know, I plan on celebrating these things by taking a look at all of the previous movie dinosaurs and just kind of like talking about their designs and things like that. Today we're doing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, so let's get right into it. Now, full disclosure going into this, there's a lot of animals that show up in this movie that have already shown up in different, like in previous movies. I'm not going to talk about those ones because I've already, talked about them ad nauseum in the previous videos. So if you want my takes on those, then be sure to go and check out the previous entries in this little series. We're only focusing on the new ones here, starting off with Sinoceratops. This is one of the first times that we actually get a different ceratopsian in a Jurassic movie, which is a pretty cool thing to do because there's a lot of really cool ceratopsians that you can implement. Now, this is not really my favorite Sinoceratops design, or really not my favorite ceratopsian design in general. Little fun fact about it, it was apparently initially supposed to be a Pachyrhinosaurus when going into this. Its skull shape is a lot more similar to Pachyrhinosaurus, like its frill shape is. It also has these little horns at the base of its frill, which is something that Pachyrhinosaurus has. The only thing that Pachyrhinosaurus didn't have is that huge horn on its nose. It actually had a boss on its nose. So this would have been a pretty bad Pachyrhinosaurus design as well. It's not a good Sinoceratops design either. Sinoceratops is completely different skeletally, like it has more of a wide snout with a thinner horn and a smaller frill, and it had smaller proportions in general. Not really my favorite design in the whole franchise. I do like its colors, but I just in terms of ceratopsian designs, it's certainly not one of my favorites. Not a terrible design, really, but it's just not one of my favorites. After that is the Carnotaurus. Now, this is actually a pretty good design. I actually really like it because it has a lot of the traits that you'd expect from a Carnotaurus, like the abellisaurid head that is a lot more stocky, a lot more robust, very short arms, although they do have elbows. Carnotaurus did not have elbows, really. They just had what were essentially wrists, but the arms are still small. It does have the horns the Carnotaurus had. And it does have like rough skin, which is something that Carnotaurus had, but it does, Carnotaurus' skin was not like in rows like how it's portrayed right here. It was more so like randomly dotted throughout the body, although that is more so a recent discovery. It's a very good design though, and like it's probably one of my favorite designs in the Jurassic World trilogy. Like, especially with this really cool close-up shot right here, you can see like every individual scale, and there's just an insane amount of detail that went into it. It's not my favorite Carnotaurus design. That one comes in the next movie, but it is a very cool Carnotaurus design. Like, I really like it. And then next up is the Baryonyx, which is one that I'm not a fan of. I've probably talked about it quite a bit before on this channel. I don't really like the Baryonyx from the Jurassic World trilogy. Baryonyx that I did like that was kind of tied to this franchise was the website design. That Baryonyx looked incredible. It had the proper like snout shape, and like the snout was properly thin. He had these huge arms with 3 huge claws, and one of the claws being significantly larger than the other ones, which is the whole reason why Baryonyx got its name, that being heavy claw. A lot of these traits are lacking in the Fallen Kingdom design, as it has more of a broad snout, a claw that is not nearly as large as it probably should be, and a sort of crocodilian-like back, as it has osteoderms on its back. I'm not really I've mentioned this a lot before, but I'm not a big fan of just tossing osteoderms onto every single theropod that ever existed. It's more so like to me, it feels like an attempt to just try to make them look cool and scary, when in reality, it just kind of makes them look a little bit goofy. Most theropods did not have osteoderms. Ceratosaurus, actually, I pointed wrong way. Ceratosaurus actually did have osteoderms. It's one of the few theropods that did, but dinosaurs like Baryonyx and other such dinosaurs, there's really no evidence of them possessing osteoderms. So I don't really like it. Colors are pretty cool though. I have seen some people do some edits of this to make it look a lot more scientifically accurate, and that paired with the colors makes it look really awesome. I'm not a fan of its proportions and the overall shape of its skull. After that is the Allosaurus. We actually get a young Allosaurus, as in later films, installments really, we get an older Allosaurus. This one actually lacks osteoderms, as the later one has osteoderms. Yay. But this one does, like, it has more of that smooth skin texture, which is a lot more accurate because we do actually have Allosaurus skin impressions, and it shows like an overall like smooth skin texture, kind of similar to Tyrannosaurus Rex. It also does have lacrimal crests and a very cool kind of base coloration of blue, which is a very nice contrast to that really red lacrimal crest. The shape of the skull also looks really good, and it's kind of a shame that we don't get to see too much of it, especially with an iconic dinosaur like Allosaurus. But I really do like this design. Like, even though it's a brief little cameo before it gets demolished by falling debris, it's very cool to see. Then our second Pachycephalosaurid in this franchise, or young Pachycephalosaurus, depending on how you want to view it. That being Stygimoloch. Now, of course, I'm in favor of like Dracorex and Stygimoloch being different growth stages of Pachycephalosaurus. Although with Stygimoloch, it does get a little bit more iffy because of there's a chance that it lived in a slightly different time from Pachycephalosaurus. But regardless, there's still a good chance that it was in, like, at the very least, a different species of Pachycephalosaurus, if not like a younger individual. Or maybe it's an example of sexual dimorphism. There's a lot of things that we don't currently know about that. Anyway, I really like its design here. This fellow's name is Stiggy. At least, I don't know if that's its official name, but I believe many people have called it that. And it looks great. It's got that head dome. It's got these huge spikes at the back of its head. The face of the skull, wow, that's a weird way to say it. The shape of the skull looks really good. It has a beak. They gave it cheeks just like the previous Pachycephalosaurus, so they have some consistency there. The coloration looks really good, and once again, the quality of the CGI is awesome. It was also really cool to follow an herbivore be a little bit more aggressive, as that's something that you don't see too frequently in more modern depictions of herbivorous dinosaurs. So it was really nice to see it just sort of running around, taking people out with its bump on its head. It was very, very cool, and I really did like it. So yeah, it seems like they nailed practically everything that they possibly could have nailed with this one. A very good design, a design that I'm quite a big fan of. And then finally, the second hybrid that we see on screen, the Indoraptor, an incredibly underutilized dinosaur. It shows up towards the end of the film. We get some buildup for it, but unlike the Indominus Rex that had had a presence throughout the whole film, it only has a presence towards like the later half of the film, and even at that, like towards the end of it, do we actually see it do anything? It's pretty cool though. It's basically like, I don't remember if this is like actually canon, but it seems like the Indominus Rex had like a base genome of T-Rex, whereas the Indoraptor, hence the name, has more so a base genome of the Velociraptor, and so it's a lot smaller, and it's a lot more agile than the Indominus Rex would have been. It also does like have like these huge claws on its feet, huge claws on its hands. It probably has opposable thumbs as well. I can't quite remember right now, and a skull that is a lot more reminiscent to the Indominus Rex's skull, just of course reduced. It also has a really cool kind of black coloration with a yellow stripe, and all around, it's just a shame that we didn't get to see more of it. Especially considering the fact that it's a lot of people's favorite hybrid, and that's for good reason. It's very interesting, and it would have been cool to see it fleshed out a little bit more in a similar way that the Indominus Rex was fleshed out. But the quality of the CGI looks really good, and even though that whole laser light thing is pretty goofy, it's just really cool to see this sort of aggressive animal on screen. Of course, Blue also has more of a presence in this film. I didn't talk about her too much in the Jurassic World installment, but she has this really cool kind of like base coloration of gray with a blue stripe. And yeah, like the other raptors that we saw in the first Jurassic World film, she looks pretty decent. There are some changes that were done to the Jurassic World version of the Velociraptor that I don't really like how far back those teeth go. For some reason, those teeth like go all the way past the eye, which is just interesting. It's a very interesting design choice that I'm not too crazy about. But Blue's cool. It's always cool to have some named dinosaurs on screen. And of course, unless I'm missing any, all of the other dinosaurs that we see in this film had already appeared in previous films. So again, if you want more of my thoughts on those designs, be sure to check out the previous videos in this series. I do offer a little bit more to say about those fellas. So yeah, there was actually a lot more creatures added to this film than I had initially remembered. I thought it was like a small handful, but we actually had a pretty decent list of new creatures, which is pretty cool. And there's even more that were added in Dominion. So that's going to be really excited to get into. So I'm really excited to get into that. That will be, of course, the final video in this little push, like I'm trying to get all of these out before Rebirth shows up. And it looks like I'm right on track to doing that. I'm probably going to continue this series after we're done with all of that. I'm really enjoying it. And there's a lot of other dinosaur films and prehistoric films in general that we could do this with. So if that's something you'd like to see, then be sure to let me know down below, because I'd love to take a look at like other independent films, like maybe Land Before Time, or like Valley of Gwangi, or maybe even the shows of the Jurassic franchise. I'd really like to do that. But if you enjoy Jurassic related content, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board. Thank you so much to all my patrons and my channel members. You guys are all helping out tremendously, and you guys are all awesome. If you wish to help support me, those links for those are down below. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.